All right, so chapter 6. We're going to talk about different types of stay controls. So different things we can do as revenue management, things that we can do in order to maximize and ensure that we sell the right room to the right guest on the right day for the right price. Okay. So minimum length of stays is one, stay through is another, and close to arrivals. Okay. Close to arrivals. So what does minimum length of stay mean? Yes.
If they're gonna make a reservation, they have to stay however many nights are required.
Yeah. So it might be a minimum of 3 nights. It might be if you're a resort, it may say that you have to stay a minimum of 4 nights or 5 nights. Okay. If they want that reservation, they have to stay at that minimum length of stay. What is a potential issue if we do not have a minimum, if we don't implement a minimum length of stay? What's a
You
potential risk that we run?
you could ultimately end up losing out on more nights, like when the rock and roll tournament was here. So you could have a lot of people booking for one night, like a Friday only, when you could open those up for people who are going to be there for Friday and Saturday.
Exactly, yeah. So one night within that, or 1 or 2 nights within that length of stay might sell out. And if that night sells out, then I can't take somebody that wants to stay for that entire length of stay. Right. And so to prevent that from happening, we automatically from the beginning say this is an event time period. We know our demand's gonna be high, bless you. We know our supply is gonna be low, or there's gonna be a tight constraint on our demand. So we're gonna go ahead and implement a minimum stay requirement. Right? Yes.
Where would you like post this is the minimum stay?
So oftentimes it'll be like an error message. So someone's online, somebody might try to book one night, and then it'll give you an error message that you have to meet 2 night minimum or a 3 night minimum. That also will be something that the front desk agent would be able to see on their system. So if somebody calls, or the reservation agent, somebody calls to make reservation and they have checking in on this day, then the hotel reservationist will say, okay, if you want to check in on this day, it's a 2 night minimum. So oftentimes they'll ask for the check-in and check-out dates and then be able to tell them that there's a 2 night minimum or a 3 night minimum. Okay. What is close to arrival? What does that mean? What do you think?
Blocking off any new incoming.
Yeah, so we're gonna block out any new incoming reservations. Whether we're sold out or not, we might go ahead and just stop taking reservations. What might be a reason why we would stop taking reservations even if we weren't sold out? What's that?
Not overbook or oversell.
Right, so we may not want to be 100% sold out. I can't remember if it was this class or my other class that we talked about, but as the pandemic was easing up, the Westin Hotel downtown the Riverwalk, I was talking to their revenue manager one time, and they were only operating at 60% occupancy because they didn't have the staff to clean more than 60% occupancy in one day. So one, they didn't want to leave rooms dirty overnight. And two, they didn't want to work their staff so hard that they were exhausted and they wanted to quit. So they made a decision to not sell out at 100%, to stop at 60%, and they would not take any more reservations because that's what their housekeeping staff was able to accommodate and accomplish in one day. So I thought that was really interesting. I never heard of it for that perspective. What else? Anybody else? Another reason why we would close to arrival?
A special guest, a VIP.
VIP or high security issues, if we want to limit the number of people that are in the hotel, okay? Now, I've never experienced something like that, so I can't speak from experience, but I would assume that if we are closing to arrival, that whoever that VIP or whoever that guest that requires extra security would basically negotiate a rate to cover the lost revenue as if we were not selling out. So that would be my assumption. I've not ever experienced that, so I don't know. But I would assume that they would pay the difference because if they're requesting or they're requiring that additional security to make sure we limit the number of people in the hotel, then I can't sell those rooms, so I'm gonna sell it at a higher price. Same thing happens in the events world for restaurants. So for example, Hard Rock Cafe, when I was an event manager, I had a group that wanted to do a private event for 250 people at Hard Rock Cafe. And they wanted nobody else in the whole restaurant. They wanted just to be their group of 250 people. And so I called and my friend said, yes, we can do it, but they need to spend $16,000 on food and beverage. Because on that day, last year, I made $16,000 in sales. So I don't want to make less than I made last year. So if they can agree to pay me $16,000, so just doing some quick math, $16,000 divided by 250 people, it's only 64 bucks a person. That's pretty easy and manageable when you think about appetizers, entree, and drinks. 64 bucks per person is not that lot. So you hear that big number, oh my gosh, $16,000. But when you look at the price per person, that's usually what I have been accustomed to doing since working in the event industry. It's like, what is the price per person and what am I getting for that? And then, of course, if I have 250 people, it's going to be a lot of money to feed that many people or provide an event for that many people. So, anyways, stay through. Stay through. This is what I always have issues remembering. So if someone has their textbook and wants to read out the definition of stay through, I would greatly appreciate that.
Used to increase occupancy on a gap day.
Okay, awesome. That's what I thought. I just didn't want to misspeak. So here we go. Stay through. We often, when we're thinking about the revenue, okay, think about, got our little smiley face because we're fully booked out. Okay, we're at 100% occupancy. We've got a big group in house, right? But then our other group is over here. And so we have what's called shoulder dates. These shoulder dates are the dates where our occupancy dips because maybe we don't have groups in house, or maybe this is the weekend. Okay. And these are the weekdays. Our occupancy dips during the weekdays because people aren't staying leisure travel. So it can go both ways, group or leisure. Okay. So that stay through is something a tactic that we can use where, okay, Alyssa, your group is in house and our normal rate is $250 and your negotiated rate for your conference is $175. So we're going to allow you, if you would like to, extend your stay one day after, and we will honor that negotiated rate of $175. So oftentimes, or hey, if your group is coming in Sunday through, or your group is coming in Monday through Thursday, then if some of your group wants to come in on Sunday, then we'll honor that discounted rate on Sunday so they can come in a day early or they can stay a day after. That helps us fill those those times of low occupancy. Okay. Questions about shoulder dates? So ideally, we would love, you see how this graph kind of goes like this? Has a really high peak and low valleys, right? Ideally, we would love to have low valleys, have it be a little bit more like rolling hills instead of like mountains, because that mountains show that we have low occupancy during that time period. Questions about stay through? So oftentimes how we communicate that is through the meeting planner. If we're having a group in-house, that meeting planner may have it on their website that the conference rate is available the day before and the day after the conference. Because sometimes people are so busy during conferences, they don't get to actually go out and enjoy the city. And so if they want to stay, they can stay one more day at that discounted rate. It allows us to kind of prevents us having those low dips in occupancy. All right, overbooking. How many of you who work in hotels have ever seen your projected forecast at over 100%? Okay. If you haven't yet, you will see it at some point. Okay. Why do we book at 100% or more, Oscar? In case someone cancels. Mark.
No show.
Yeah. Exactly. So if they either cancel or they just don't even show up at all. Okay. Without telling us, no show. That's great. We get to charge them at least one night room and tax. If they cancel, if they cancel within the cancellation period, then of course we lose that revenue altogether. But if they just don't show up, we at least get some revenue, but not a whole lot, right? Or not if they're supposed to stay for 3 nights and they don't show up that first night, we'll cancel their reservation and only charge the first night room and tax. So that frees up the room for the next 2 nights. So, Madison, I think you talked about walking a guest, right? Giving a complimentary room, yes. So when we do overbook, it does happen. Sometimes we have to walk a guest to another hotel, another property, okay? What does it mean when we walk a guest? Samantha, have you ever had to walk a guest?
Yeah.
Not yet? Ooh, okay. Come let us know when that has happened. It's not a very comfortable situation. I mean, put yourself in their shoes, right? Put yourself in their shoes. You show up, you have a reservation, you show up and the hotel is overbooked, or the hotel is sold out. Okay. Now, we do have a little bit of strategy. I don't know if this is like an industry standard, so please don't quote me on this, right? But typically, who's the type of reservation that we would look to last to walk? Who would ever consider last to walk? Anyone's an honors member or a member of our frequent stay program, right? I've been fortunate. I have Hilton Diamond status. I've had it since the pandemic because they upgraded us for free during the pandemic. And then I got hooked on the benefits and I make sure I maintain that every year. But they still have it where like I am guaranteed a room as a Hilton Diamond member. I could look online and there happened one time I did not do it because I couldn't do that to somebody. But I looked online and it said sold out, but I could still make a reservation as a Hilton Honors member and Diamond member, and they had to honor it. So in that case, you would never want to walk somebody who's at least definitely the highest tier level of your rewards program. But even just anybody who's part of a rewards program, because they're loyal guests, right? Nowadays, I mean, I have IHG, Hilton Honors, Marriott Bonvoy. A lot of people have all the different memberships, right? But when they first started coming out, that really kind of showed that somebody had that guest loyalty to that brand. Who's the first type of reservation we might look at to cancel?
Expedia's prepaid.
Yeah, Madison.
What they said.
Yeah, the OTAs, absolutely. Our online travel agencies, Expedia, TripAdvisor, Travelocity, Google, right? Those people, because oftentimes, especially if they are booking through an OTA, they're often looking for the cheapest price. They have no brand loyalty to us. And so we might look at them. And then when they come in and say, I'm so sorry, we don't have any rooms, we're sold out for tonight. Of course, if we are going to walk a guest, it does take some preparation. Okay. We don't just say, sorry, we have no rooms. If they have a confirmed reservation, then we have an obligation to provide them lodging. Okay. And so we will have to walk them to a property that's of equal value or nicer. A lot of hotels will have sister properties. So they already work together. The Hyatt's downtown, for example, the Grand Hyatt has the Hyatt Regency they might send people to. So it's the same brand, same level of service. And so when we walk a guest, we're gonna pay for their hotel room. We're gonna pay for the transportation to get them there. So we may call them an Uber or a taxi to get them there. Okay. What are some issues with overbooking that we might face?
Might have to walk multiple guests.
So if we have to walk multiple guests, but think about it from like our guest service or our reputation standpoint. We might get bad reviews. Okay, so that's one. It used to be that somebody would go tell their 5 closest friends. Well, now people go online and tell their closest 5 million acquaintances. What else?
We aren't able to take walk-ins.
We definitely aren't able to take walk-ins, that's for sure. Mark.
They actually show up.
Well, yeah, so if we overbook and everybody shows up, we have to walk those guests. And so once we've walked that guest, what perception does that guest have of our hotel?
Prevent.
That it has a negative perception. So they may be somebody who's come to our hotel, or maybe this is their first time. We don't know. And then we have to walk them to another hotel and they fall in love with that hotel. And every time they come to San Antonio, that's the first hotel they go to. When we could have potentially had that lifelong guest, that lifetime guest, because of what we had to walk a guest. So we obviously, as a revenue managers, if you don't know any, and as you go through your career and you meet some, revenue managers are very competitive people. They want to be the best in their comp set. They want to have the highest occupancy. They want to have the highest RevPAR. Okay, and they're gonna push the limits a little bit to get that occupancy. Now, last weekend we had TMEA, Texas Music Educators Association. We had Valentine's Day. And we have rodeo. So those 3 things. Do you think we're gonna be pushing the limits on selling out and doing over 110, like doing over 100% occupancy? Way over? Probably not. Excuse me, we may go like 101%, 102%, but if we're sold out and there's a conference and it's rodeo and it's Valentine's Day, chances are the people I'm walking to normally are also going to be sold out. So that's going to be an issue. Sorry. What are some things that we can do to prevent having to walk guests? What's that? Okay, so we could not overbook to begin with. Absolutely, we could make it a policy when we hit 100% occupancy, we're done. No more reservations, we're sold out. Okay? Yes,
On confirm like the reservations.
absolutely. We can see those reservations that are booked. Call. Hey, Mr. Uminski, this is Oscar from the Courtyard. I was just calling to verify that you are coming in today. And I just want to make sure we have a room ready for you. Okay? Oh, that's great. Yes, I'll be in. And hey, you know what? My flight got delayed. I'm gonna be coming in at 11 o'clock tonight. So that way you know you're set inside a room. Okay. What else? Jesse?
Upgrading?
Yeah, we might upgrade. So maybe we're sold out of a standard room, but we have suites available. Right? So just because we're sold out of a specific room type doesn't mean we maybe not necessarily sold out for the hotel in general. We may be sold out of king rooms. And so, okay, you know what? I'm so sorry. Antonia, I'm really sorry. We're out of king beds, but I do have some double rooms available. You know, I know that's not what you reserved, but I'm gonna go ahead and, or you know what? We don't have any king standard rooms available, but I do have a king junior suite. I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade you for this visit because I ran out of that room type. I'm gonna upgrade you to a king junior suite. Okay. So we can absolutely do that to prevent them from walking. And then If you get Mr. Uminski as that guest, well, then I get a little taste of the King Junior Suite, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna book the Junior Suite every single time to make sure I get that. And so I am a marketer's and the person's like best dream because once you give me a little taste of luxury, I can't do without it. Tanya,
Systems in place.
yeah, we might have some checklists in place. What happens if the housekeeper forgot to check that they cleaned the room and change the room status over in the system from dirty to vacant ready? The room is vacant ready, but the guest is checked out, the room is vacant ready, but in my system, it shows dirty, which means I'm not gonna assign a guest to that room. And if it's vacant ready and it goes all night empty, that's lost revenue. Not only did I lose that revenue for that room, but I've also now walked a guest, and so it's cost me more money. So doing double checks, when we know we're gonna be 100% occupancy, double check that every room that's marked dirty, that the guest has checked out is actually dirty, okay? Because sometimes housekeeping doesn't get a chance to do all the rooms. Sometimes they do have to roll their rooms over to the next day if the workload is so high. But we don't want to have that issue where the room is actually clean and it was never switched over. Nowadays, we use handheld tablets and basically like iPhones and whatnot to switch things over. So technology has kind of eliminated that or minimized those errors. It used to be on paper. When I was at the La Quinta, the executive housekeeper would have to go by and check with the supervisors which rooms had been verified and are vacant ready. And then she would have to come down every hour to the front desk and manually change over those rooms from dirty and vacant to vacant ready. And so that caused potentially some errors when everything's done by paper. Yeah. Any other comments about preventive measures? Yeah.
Would cutting off like maybe our reservations to like 97% be something like that?
No, no, we always want to go to 100%. I always want to be at 100%. Yeah. Unless we're in a situation like I mentioned before, like the Westin, they knew that their staff couldn't handle 100%, so they cut it off at 60%. That would be a different situation. But we always want to try to aim for that 100% occupancy. Yep. Okay, so your homework assignment for chapter 6. We talked about deciding who gets walked. We didn't talk about overstays. Remember, overstay is somebody who wants to stay longer than their original reservation. Well, what if they're supposed to check out on Friday and they're like, I'm having way too much fun. I want to stay one more night, Friday night. Unfortunately, I am booked. I'm sold out. Okay. Now, if it's going to cause you to be oversold by one room, you may be able to, but okay. Mark, yes, I can go ahead and extend your stay. However, your rate for your previous reservation was 175 a night. And now this new rate is going to be 250 a night. So I can't extend the rate that you had. But if you want to stay and you want to stay that last night, then it's going to be an extra amount because this is my rate for this night. I ran into one situation, not me as not as an employee, but as a guest. One time I was in Philadelphia, I think, for the rock and roll. And I was at a DoubleTree hotel, so of course I had to stop by and get my cookies to check in. And so I was waiting patiently for my cookies, and the front desk agent was very professionally explaining to the guest that their rate, if they wanted to extend their stay, was going to be a higher rate. Because the guest had originally booked through a third party, through an OTA, and they paid like $100 on that discounted rate. And then, but if they wanted to stay one extra night, it was going to be like $150 because it was rock and roll weekend. And so the guest ended up staying, which I thought was awesome. And the get front desk agent did a great job explaining, well, next time if you book directly with us, we can be a little bit more flexible on extending a rate that's a little bit more comparable to what you paid for the first reservation. I thought that was really professional, really great. All right, so your homework is Walking Mr. Walker. It's in the back of chapter 6. It's a case study. Okay, so you're just gonna basically put in your responses, write the case study, answer the questions, and that's your homework that's due by next week. Any questions, comments, concerns? We are gonna spend 2 weeks. Well, is it 2 weeks? Yeah, we're probably gonna spend 2 class periods on the displacement analysis because it includes a lot of math. Okay? There's a lot of math in the displacement analysis. So please watch the first 2 videos for the displacement analysis. Let me open up Canvas. Oh my goodness. I can show you. Shit, that's not all. Semester. All right, so if you will watch chapter 7, lesson 1 and 2, and then chapter 7, part 2, the room revenue. So if you watch these 2 videos, or no, sorry, just chapter 1, lesson 1 and 2. So just these 2 videos about the displacement analysis, what we're looking at, and then the room revenue differential. Okay. Just in case, if you will do me a favor also and watch lesson 3. Okay, so if you'll watch lessons 1, 2, and 3 for chapter 7, if we move through the room revenue differential next week, we may start the food and beverage on the second half of class. Okay. So, and then it's spring break.
Ooh, all right.
Already?
We have 2 weeks until spring break. So, semester is flying by. After spring break is the 8th week of the semester, so midterms are not actually until after spring break. But otherwise, yeah. Thank you all so much. I'll post these videos in the class